Okay, welcome back. And then my apologies, just now we had some technical glitches, right? So we are back now in part two, and in part two, we will look at research process, and we also look at the research questions. Yeah,
research objective.
okay, yeah. So
Yes.
we will ask Iko to share her research objectives as well as research questions and research process. So we will go through part by part, and then so that you have a clearer picture of what Eco plans to do. Right? Shall we? Or-
Okay. Before to my research process, this is my research questions and objectives, and my significance. My research questions are: first, what are the meanings attached by faith-based communities in Banten province to the term Halalan Toyyiban food laws? And the research objective is to analyze the meanings attached by faith-based communities in Banten province to the term Halalan Toyyiban food law. The second one, what are the behaviors of faith-based communities in Banten province on purchasing products related to Halalan Toyyiban food? The objective is to assess the behaviors of faith-based communities in Banten province on purchasing products related to Halalan Toyyiban food. Next, what are perceptions of Bantenese desired practices of purchasing Halalan Toyyiban food products? The objective, to examine the perception of Bantenese desired practices of purchasing Halalan Toyyiban food products. And the sub-question is, what are the possible practices of Halalan Toyyiban food conceptions? The objective is to evaluate the possible practices of Halalan Toyyiban food conception. The fourth question, what are the challenges they perceive and what meanings do they attach to those challenges? The objective, to investigate the challenges they perceive and what meanings do they attach to those challenges.
Okay, let me interject a bit.
Yes,
so for those of you who want to pursue something similar, right? Either film study or qualitative research of this sort, using abductive research, right? This will be a good model to as a guide, right? So you could look at quality to a particular phenomena, to a particular idea, right? And then you can also, the second part, you can look at the behaviors, right? So what behaviors do they relate to this particular phenomena or particular construct, right? So at a higher level or deeper level, you could also look at what meanings they attach to the behaviors. So what they think about the phenomena, right? What actions, what activities do they carry out in relation to that phenomena, and then what meanings do they attach to their actions, right? So again, this is very similar to phenomenology, although Eco did not use the word phenomenology in the research, right? It is mainly in-depth interviews. So what Eco was pursuing was the essence or essences of the meanings and the behaviors and the meanings they attach to the behaviors to what is known as Halalan Toyyiban, right?
Yes.
I'm not sure Iko will explain this or not. Usually we hear the word halal, right? So halal, I think we generally, we heard about that. The Muslim would eat halal food, which means the food that is being that's not prohibited, right? So certain food are being prohibited in Islam, certain food are not being prohibited. So halal are not a food that's not prohibited. You can eat the food, that's halal. But toyib is a different meaning. Toyib is about good. So certain things can be wholesomeness, right? So it's not just halal, it's not just permissible, but also wholesome or good, right? So Eco is researching on something that is very original in the sense that the society has not defined
about the meanings of
Halalan Toyyiban in such a manner, right?
based on faith-based communities.
Yes,
That's my novelty, because
Yeah.
about the halal, or about the Halalan Toyyiban itself has not been described by the faith-based communities construction of the theory. So in my project, it's about the faith-based communities perception.
Thank you for highlighting that, because now for you, for those of you who are just starting or even about to start, or not too far away in your research process, right? Scoping, the scope of your research will help you develop the originality of the research, right? So, Eco was looking at the faith-based community meanings and behaviors of halal and toyyiban, right?
Yes, right.
So Eco can look at something else, right? Eco could be looking at the managers or corporates or government perspective, or how the unit of analysis itself can contribute to the uniqueness of the research, can contribute towards theory building, right? So that is the strength of abductive research strategy. So Eco has come up with something very original as well, right?
That's
So,
why I did conduct scope and limitation of
there
my
you go.
study
Okay,
group.
go ahead.
Scope and limitation of my study is the first. The topic of Halalan food laws based on social constructs in the literature is scarce in the aspect of social constructs. Thus, this study would fill the theoretical and empirical gaps of knowledge. Banten province was selected as the study area of this study, since it is the first local government in Indonesia that has a halal valley industry with about 500 hectares of landmass area. This study was purely qualitative, using an abductive research strategy to answer for research questions by conducting in-depth interviews. The study was limited to social actors inside of faith-based communities of Banten province on Halalan Toyyiban food laws, although contextual discussions on the public discourse in media were written by scholars from various points of view. The study experienced time constraints, and financial and other resources were limited. So about the faith-based communities, I grade my respondents from Muslim, and Muslim has 5 groups of the Muslim organization in Banten. Then from the food entrepreneurs, from the governments itself. So the faith-based communities is from Muslim, Christian, Catholic and Protestant, Confucius, Buddhist.
Confucius is people with Chinese,
with Chinese
traditional beliefs, right? So in Indonesia, is considered as a religion,
As a
right?
religion.
So in there, I think Taoism would be included in there. Confucianism, although Confucianism is not a religion, but it's being recognized as a religious belief system in Indonesia.
In
right?
Indonesia, Confucius is recognized as a belief system in
It's a
Indonesia.
belief system.
Yes.
Buddhist
and Hindu.
and Hindu separate, yeah.
So it's spirited respondents. So that's my scope and limitation, right?
Yeah. So what happens is when you have many different faith-based groups, you can do comparative analysis, which is another great thing that you might want to consider for those of you who are pursuing research and qualitative area, right? Doing comparative study is a wonderful way. It's a great way to generate a rich source of data, right? So sometimes I would, not sometimes, I encourage my students, to go beyond one case study, right? Usually you could do just one case study, but I recommend you go beyond one case study, 2 or 3, right? So like Muzakir, I recommended him to do 3 case studies, right? Comparing 3 universities. But by the time he was conducting 2 universities, the data is so overwhelming. There's so much data, so he could stop and not doing the third one. But the point here is not that it's wrong or right. The point here is that you want to go in strong in your PhD viva, right? So you do not want to produce something really thin, you want to produce something really thick, right? I know people make the argument, right? Some even lecturers make the argument, it doesn't matter the quantity, what's important, the quality. I say yes, quality is important, but usually quality comes with quantity, right? And there's this psychological game during the viva, right? The examiners will look at the thesis and say, oh, this is a promising, this is good, this is when it's heavy, you know? When it's thin, the feeling is different, right? You know, you have some doubts there, right? So I'm just sharing with you, for those who are pursuing PhD, right, or masters for that matter, thickness counts, and thickness, you want that thickness to come from the data, right? The data. So by having the comparison, like what you're doing between different faith-based
in certain terms, in certain themes, you make kind of comparison about the faith-based community's perception.
Yes.
Then the themes, sub-themes appears from their descriptions.
Yes. And okay, you mentioned theme that is important because some theme, one particular faith-based organization doesn't have much to say. The other group has a lot to say. Right? So when you have different groups, you can manage your risk to get the data, right? So
that's the challenge of the abductive research strategy with qualitative data analysis using in-depth interview. It's how to materialize or kind of make coding of the theme and sub-themes from the statements from transcriptions that I've already done. So it's quite challenging, bro.
Okay. Yeah. It is challenging. It's also fun.
But it's already it has been
Quite challenging, but the fight.
Yeah. Not while doing it. This is so hard, man. This is so hard. Tedious, right? But at the end, you feel fulfilled. Fulfillment. Right. Yes. Continue.
Research process.
Yes.
Okay. I try to describe about my research process. Ontological and epistemological issues. The abductive research strategy entails on ontological assumptions that analyze social reality as the social constructions of social actors. It is their conception that autonomously exist from their social activities. A social fact is regarded as a product of a process in which social actors negotiate the meanings for their actions and situations. It is a mutual complex social construction of knowledge meanings, cultural symbols, and social institutions. Meanings and interpretation of it facilitate the structured social relationship. The epistemological assumptions of the abductive research strategy indicate that social scientific knowledge is derived from everyday concepts and meanings socially constructed in mutual understanding. The social researcher enters the everyday social world to grasp their meanings. At one level, the accounts of social world produced by social scientists are redescriptions in the social scientist language of the social actors' everyday accounts. At another level, this redescription can be developed into theories that go beyond common knowledge to include conditions of which social actors may be unaware of. This research is arranged in a technical concept as follows. State the topic, then the research problem, then the research question. A specific social issue on Halalan Toyyiban food laws was selected considering the shift of economic growth from the west to the east, where Muslims are the largest population and provide great opportunities for development of Halalan Toyyiban food laws. Nearly 90% of the inhabitants in Indonesia are Muslims, and Banten province is one of the local governments in Indonesia. The province developed a halal valley industry in modern Cikande area Serang Regency. The research questions were produced to examine the existing theoretical and empirical gap on Halalan Toyyiban food laws and fill them for the sake of knowledge. Based on Blakey, abductive logic is a method used to create a common hypothesis in the natural sciences, which is now regarded as a suitable method for constructing interpretations of social science. This study used an abductive research strategy to establish a theory derived from the language, the meaning and importance based on the daily activities of Halalan Toyyiban food law of faith-based communities in Banten Province, Indonesia. This study began by describing all activities and meanings that come from the faith-based communities in Banten Province by category and the concept of Halalan Toyyiban food laws. This research was based on an idealist ontology and the epistemology of constructionism. As described by Blakey, ontology is a branch of philosophy that is concerned with the nature of what exists. In the social sciences, ontology answered the question, what is the nature of social reality? In this study, the idealist ontology was used, which is the external world consisting of representations that are created from individual minds. Halalan Toyyiban food law is painted as something real, as it is thought to be indeed real. It is a simple idea of impression to be real. Reality is what humans form or do from the creative activities of the subjects based on objects. In other words, the reality of the theory examines regarding Halalan Toyyiban food laws in Banten Province based on the construction of faith-based communities is expected to become a reality. Based on Blakey, the idealist position claims that there are fundamental differences between natural and social phenomena, that humans, unlike things in nature, have culture and live in a world of their shared interpretations. In this case, the Bantenese have their own culture and believe in producing, choosing, purchasing, and consuming Halalan Toyyiban food based on their insights. Through this study, they shared the interpretation of everyday lives, were analyzed to form a theory for fulfilling the gap in the knowledge on Halalan Toyyiban food laws based on social constructs. The social reality for them is created from the meanings and interpretations made and managed by social actors. Social reality consists of interpretation along with forming and reshaping Halalan Toyyiban food laws values based on the activities of daily life. According to Blakey, an epistemology is a theory of knowledge, a theory or science of the method or grounds of knowledge. It is theory of human beings come to have knowledge of the world around them. However, this is regarded of how we know what we know. In this study, as a basis of how we know what we know, some objectives were examined by analysis, assessments, examinations, evaluations, and investigations to answer the research question on Halalan Toyyiban food laws in Banten Province on social constructs. Then Blakey mentioned, in this social science, epistemologies offers answers to the question, how can social reality be known? They make claims about which scientific procedures produce reliable social scientific knowledge. In this research, the social reality on Halalan Toyyiban food laws was identified through the social actors' insights, which are the Bantenese faith-based communities using the method with in-depth interviews. Blakey stated that constructionism is the process of constructing the meanings by the observer, who plays an active role in its creation. The Halalan Toyyiban food laws meaning on social constructs was constructed using abductive research design with qualitative data analysis based on Crotty in Blakey. This creative process is constrained by the nature of the things themselves. Their meanings is the result of the observer's engagement with them, which requires additional understanding that exists. Okay, this is the possible probing concept that I told before, because I don't have any theory. So in my abductive research strategy, I use possible probing concept or sensitizing concept. The study contributes to a theory of Halalan Toyyiban food laws based on social constructs. An in-depth interview is a method used for the research based on lay activities and insight of social actors. For sensitizing concept, there were 4 possible probing on Halalan Toyyiban food laws on social constructs, as can be referred in table. So, it should be the Halalan in here and non-Halalan in here. So the frame, it's like X and Y axis. The Toyyiban, and this is the Halalan. There are 4 concepts, which are Halalan and Toyyiban, Halalan but non-Toyyiban, non-Halalan but Toyyiban, neither Halalan nor Toyyiban.
Let's translate that a bit. So, Halalan Toyyiban means it's
Halalan
both good. Go ahead.
Halalan Toyyiban, it means that it's legal and wholesome. Halalan, permissible and wholesome.
Yes.
Halalan but non-Toyyiban is permissible but non-wholesome.
Not wholesome, yes. Not good.
Yes.
So, what is halal and what is halal? What is permissible and not wholesome? Eating a piece of paper.
Could be like that, right?
Right? So,
Yes.
a piece of paper is halal. It's
Yes.
permissible in Islam to eat paper. Right? It's not nothing. There's no pork or the way it's been processed. But it is not wholesome, right?
Yes.
It's not good. Right? So that's
Or perhaps
The top row is office.
yes.
The top row, the halal should be the first. The first column. Second column, third column, right?
yeah, it should be shifted.
Yeah, should be shifted.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah,
Thank you for the-
I've already explained before, because when I try to replace from my
Thesis. Yeah.
thesis, it shifted like this. I can just again study.
So this is
This
what
is-
happened when you use Apple computer.
I know. Okay, perhaps halal, if we halalan, permissible but non-wholesome, could be, for examples, is if we eat something permissible but we overeating.
Yeah. Okay.
Perhaps it's categorized by halalan, but non-wholesome.
So
Could be like that.
sama. Too much herbs, too much ginger is bad also for you, right? It's permissible, but it's bad.
It's permissible.
Too much chili.
It's too much
Chili.
to overeat. It could be non-wholesome.
Non-wholesome
Yes.
too, right? You go to the toilet many times.
Yeah. Then non-halalan or non-permissible but wholesome. The examples is perhaps the pork production.
Yeah.
It could be the pork production or pork slaughtering based on the HACCP.
Okay.
But the ingredients for Muslim, it's non-halal.
All right. Okay.
Then neither halalan nor toyyiban.
Okay.
So there are neither permissible nor wholesome.
Yes.
So this is not good at all.
All right.
Okay, that's my probing concept. Okay, Prof, come to sources of the
All right. I think what for us to review a bit what ECO has presented so far, perhaps we can make certain references to what ECO has stated from Blakey's arguments as well, right? So the point of abductive research is that the unlike the physical world, unlike the natural world, right? It doesn't have emotions, it doesn't have thoughts, right? But the social world, the human world, right? It has its own subjective reality, right? And that subjective reality is a very important part of the reality, right? And abductive research strategy is to capture that part of the reality, and that part of reality has already been defined, has already been thought out, has already been experienced, has its own meanings that are being attached to it, or their own intersubjectivity, to use the term, the technical term, right? So for us to enter the human world, the social world, we are entering the subjective world, right? And in order to enter the subjective world, we need to understand their world from the subject's point of view, right?
Yes.
From the social actor's point of view, instead of us going in and trying to figure out on ourselves, right? So the meaning we attach to a certain thing might not be the meaning that the social actors attach to that thing, right? So that is the power of abductive research strategy. So you're abducting the thoughts, the meanings, the knowledge, the consciousness of the social actors, right? And in this case, it's even more fascinating because it is a dimension that many might know but have taken for granted, or many might not even know, right? So to conduct research into the social world using abductive research strategy can be a very challenging one, but very exciting. Go ahead, you want to say something?
Some respondents, they just ask back to me, okay, what do you mean, Mom, about the Halalan Toyyiban? What do you think about Halalan Toyyiban itself? So sometimes I have to make myself as do not know anything to the social actors, or perhaps try to share something to them, to give the first insight for them to then explain further about their thoughts, their experience.
Yes.
So in in-depth interview, I think we have kind of art or how to do the interview itself, how to try to adjust, or how to connect with the respondents, so we can grab a lot of views or experience from them, thoughts from
Okay,
them.
that's another important part of qualitative research,
sure.
or abductive research specifically, in this case. And that has been my experience when I was carrying out CSR, corporate social responsibility, in the early years, right? And then you go back 15 years ago, people might not hear about the word CSR, right? And even though they are practicing CSR, right? And this actually is for you all who are carrying out research on CSR or something similar that you construct, right? You're studying. That's modern construct, right? Right? Like CSR is a modern construct, a very modern construct, right? So you will need to explain. I remember, and I've shared this with you, some of you, right? I was in Sweden. I was in this truck company, a big truck company, a very established Scania, right? The truck company Scania, and I wanted to know what their CSR policy, CSR practices are. So when I talked to the management team, and they asked me, "What is CSR?" And this is a world-renowned company, like Scania. It's like the Rolls-Royce of cars, right? If you look at trucks, the best truck is Scania, right? And what is CSR, right? So I would have I break it into different parts and explain to them, there's the good practices. About
That's
your committee.
why
Yeah.
in my research, I conduct kind of appendix, Prof. So I before I go to the field research, I conduct appendices, Appendix A, B, C. Perhaps I can explain in here. The Appendix A is informed consents. So the respondents, or the potential respondents, acknowledge what we aim about the research. Then the Appendix B is demographic questionnaire. I think this is the formal things. The Appendix C is list of questions in in-depth interviews. So I conduct kind of list of questions first before go to the field research. The questions, the list of questions is based on my research objective. So each of my research objective, I try to imagine what are the questions that could be answered, and the meanings of the answer could be fulfilled. What or could be answered the research objective that I have conducted. So from this list, I go to the field. Perhaps I can share the so the appendix C.
Got to show it that way then.
Can you see? Can you see? So I conduct kind of the questions and the sub-questions about how the research question or the research objective can be answered. So from this question, I will contribute, or I will make kind of classifications of the answers from my sub-themes and my themes. Can you do this?
Maybe we can go to present.
I think I should.
Let me say something as well. So let me relate to the interview again, right? So if you have a complex idea, a big idea, like so you study CSR, you study democracy, you study big words, like Muhtadi is studying Taklik, right? Or something that is not something is technical, right? So you can actually break it into small parts in the everyday language, and let them be able to connect to those everyday language, everyday.
So in this case,
vocabularies,
with appendix, I try to connect with the everyday language of their thoughts, their experience, their habits, or so on and so on. So in this case, I using this list. That this is my first research question. This is my first research objective. This is my second research objective, third research objective, fourth research objective. Each research objective, I just imagine what the question that could be answered by the respondents, then it can be answered my research objective or my research question. So this is just a guidance. In the field, it can be depth. So another question could be appear. So that about the research questions.
You said just right.
Yes,
so
sir.
in the field, the question might
Could be expanded.
It could be expanded. Yes, could be
Yeah.
expanded. Yes.
Could be expanded.
So the idea is to to use probe, right? So you do not limit the type of answers you get.
No.
You want them to explain more and more and more,
Yes.
right?
Yes, bro.
Right?
That's the idea.
That's the
But at
idea.
least, first of all, before you go to field, you have to you have to mastering what you want to ask.
Yes.
So that's why I use this list of questions.
Yes,
that
yes.
can,
Very
I
good,
conduct
very
in
good,
Appendix
yes.
C. So this is will be used to when I try to analyzing the theme and sub-themes.
Yes. Yes.
From each respondents,
Yes.
I just make kind of statement from them. Okay, what are the statement that answer this question from respondent 1
Yes.
until the respondent 36.
Yes. Yes.
So I make kind of list. So then I go through the statements and materialize that to the theme and subthemes.
So, relating it to you all who have not conducted your interviews yet, right? So, imagine right now what ECO has done is actually ECO has come up with different ways, different question, different. Whenever there's somebody, you ask a question during the interview, you ask one question and then they answer with one word or two words, right? So you got to think of different roads to get into their mind, right?
Yes.
You just like
Yes, bro.
you cannot go this way, you go that way. You know, you have this map, this Google map or Waze, whatever you have that system to get to the inner essence, the inner explanation, the inner meanings, right? Otherwise, it'll be too shallow.
Yeah.
It'll be too shallow. And by the way, there'll be respondents who do not go beyond that.
Yeah.
Right, and then those who do not want to speak more or don't have much idea, right? So there'll be people like that, and that's why we have. I make a minimum for you all who are doing PhD, a minimum of 35, right? So you have that the depth, and then you can reach to saturation point,
Yes.
which is another term, right?
Yes.
So maybe you can explain further about that part too. So what ECO has done there with the different list of questions there, it's like different maps to get into the inner sanctum of their mind, right?
It's make me easier to conduct themes and subthemes based on the list of questions that I've already conducted. People go through the field, even though new themes can be appeared when perhaps in one or more than one statement it has same kind of sides of statements, so it could be the same things, perhaps that can describe about the themes and the subthemes.
Let me digress a bit. What's the next session?
Yes, bro.
What's the next segment you have?
Source of data, bro.
Okay, all right. Let me digress a bit to go to Muzakir's research. Right? Now, Muzakir doesn't use abductive research. Muzakir uses retroductive research, right? One of the even more challenging, perhaps. In some ways, it's more challenging, right? Now, retroductive is not about getting to the essence of people consciousness. It's to capture the generative mechanism, why things become the way they become. Why do we have this phenomena, right? Why do we have this manifestation? So Muzakir's line of interview will be different. It is to capture a kind of a story, a kind of the why this has happened, what contributes to this, right? So it's a different line of questioning, right? So your questioning is about meanings.
About meanings, about perceptions,
Perceptions,
about behaviors, about challenges.
Yes. So it's different.
Yes.
Right? So for you all who are that the camera is pointing towards Muzakir there. So Muzakir, can you share a bit about your type of questions, Muzakir, just to have a bit of comparison between abductive and retroductive. Although we are not talking about retroductive, right? So there'll be another session to talk about retroductive where Muzakir will present it. But just share a bit your what happened to me? What is your line of questioning there? Your line of interview?
Okay.
So when we talk about PhD, right, or postgraduate studies, right, we are going deeper. You know, it's not the undergraduate level anymore, right? So even the interviews are oriented differently, right? Muzakir, just to go ahead. Oh, thank you very much.
There are 3 recent questions that
Belum kedengeran kan?
The voice is okay, Raja?
just okay.
I think it's fine.
So, maybe you can
Or change my place?
It's okay, don't have anything.
Okay.
Raj's microphone is like super mic.
Okay, we can look at the PowerPoint that I have 3 recent questions. The first one, my recent question is, what are the key events of organizational transformation in the 2 Muhammadiyah universities throughout 1998 till 2018. And second one, what are the various generative mechanisms contributing to the transformation of two Muhammadiyah universities? And the last one, what are commonalities and differences between organizational transformation of the two universities? That it. Those my research questions, sir.
Well, my question to you just now was
Yeah.
the interview questions.
Oh, the
How the interview would be different from asking for meanings and all that, right?
Okay.
What would be the type of interview questions?
That's true because from my research questions, so I identify into the research question to reveal the research question. Of course, absolutely. So the first one is what the key event. So I will ask the informant or maybe the participant or the key informant to describe what the event and how the
event
can emerge in a certain situation, and then they told me about the key event and then how the key event emerged, who is the actor, what is their action in that situation. So so it means that the informant will describe the complex situation or something. Yeah, the complex situation.
Yes.
So I reconstruct the what they gave me the narrative of the event.
Yes.
That they are part of the key event.
Yeah.
So that's right.
Thank you very much. That's very good. See, the whole idea now is, if I may interject more, the whole idea now, see the whole flow, right? Like I've said this before, I've affirmed this many times before. All research is about answering research questions. So from the research questions, we identify the right methodology. So your research question is about understanding the people's meanings and behaviors, right? So the suitable methodology is abductive research strategy, right? Muzakir's research is about understanding the transformation of universities, right? From where they were until they were considered the best, most accredited with excellence, right? And he wants to trace this transformation. So if he uses the abductive research, he might not get to answer the research questions, right? So the methodology comes after the research questions. So you need to know what your research questions are, and then match your methodology with your research questions. And then you see, so this is where people, when they talk about right in the methodology chapter, right? Methodology, the right interview methods. Okay, you are missing a big part of it. What is the research question? Because Muzakir's interview, line of interview, right? The logic of Muzakir's interview is different from Eco's line of interviewing, right? The inquiry, the line inquiry is different. Yeah, you want to get to different answers, right? You want to answer different questions, rather, right? So, so this is where I'm telling you all that when you do your PhD, right? PhD, I see, is a yin-yang process. It's a lahir batin concept. Yeah? There's the more formal, but there's something more essential, right? The formal is about, the getting you making the proposal, and then pass your proposals, and a viva, get viva examine, and then you make corrections, and you get that scroll, right? And you have the PhD. But the more deeper level is about being a scholar. So being a scholar, being a researcher, is to understand that different research questions will require different research methodology, research strategy, right? And from that, you have different research interviews. It's different, right? So, and I sometimes find it a bit disturbing, right? Sometimes, not not disturbing. By now, I'm not too disturbed. But I've seen this many times when people talk about methodology, qualitative or quantitative. Right? There's a two main paradigm they talk about. No, that's wrong. But it's okay. They do that. Even lecturers do that. Right? And then the way they describe further, interview, survey, right? So they're skipping the whole process. They do not understand the logic of inquiry. So this is where